everyone, welcome to Chetan Bharat Learning. In this video, we are going to cover the current affairs related to geography and environment, and that had been in the news from 17th of September to 23rd of September. First of all, let's have a look at the issues that we'll be covering. First of all, we'll be covering the issue related to zero budget natural farming. There had been an article related to this in the Down to Earth magazine, so we'll be covering this issue. Then there is this blue flag program or blue flag certification. Recently, some of the beaches of India, they have been nominated for this certification. So that news we'll be covering. Then there was a news regarding death of certain sloth bears in this particular zoological park. So we'll be covering that aspect also. Then World Bamboo Day is observed every year on 18th of September. So we'll be covering what we are doing in this regard. And last issue that we'll be covering is vulture deaths. There was a video regarding this aspect on Down to Earth website. So we'll be covering this issue, why there are so many vulture deaths in India and what can be done. So let us start with our first issue, that is zero budget natural farming. What is this zero budget natural farming? Zero budget, no external, as far as possible minimum external input is to be used, so that minimum external cost is incurred by the farmers in doing farming. Natural farming, if we don't have to use the external inputs, then what kind of inputs are to be used? Natural inputs are to be used, organic inputs are to be used. The farming done using this method is known as zero budget natural farming. The method of chemical free agriculture drawing from traditional Indian practices. This kind of farming, it was popularized by a Padma Shri recipient Subhash Palekar, who developed this method in 1990s. And why did he develop this method? This was in response to the agricultural techniques that were being adopted as a result of Green Revolution. India's Green Revolution relied heavily on the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, and such like things. Excessive use of irrigation. All these things, excessive use of fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, irrigation, were leading to environmental damage. They were having adverse effects on the crops as well, on the productivity of soil as well, on in general ecology as well. For example, irrigation. Excessive irrigation was leading to depleting of the groundwater table. So multiple negative effects of these Green Revolution techniques of agriculture were visible in 1990s. So in response to that, this method, zero budget natural farming, was evolved by Subhash Palekar. What does this thing involve? So we'll be studying certain specific terms that we should keep in mind while writing or while answering any question related to this zero budget natural farming. What does it involve? It involves the use of Jeev Amrit. In the South Indian context, you can say Jeev Amrut, like it is the same as the term Jeev Amrit we use in the North Indian context. What is this Jeev Amrit or Jeev Amrut? It is simply a mixture of cow dung, cow urine, jaggery, pulse flour, water and soil. This fermented mixture, this fermented microbial culture is applied as a natural organic manure to the soil. It not only adds to the nutrients of the soil, it leads to application of direct nutrients to the soil. But there is this one more way in which the application of this Jeev Amrit is helpful. Because this Jeev Amrit, it develops the microbial activities in the soil. It promotes the activity of microorganisms and earthworms in the soil. They further act on soil and they further add nutrients to the soil. They lead to all this thing leads to aeration of the soil. So they say that instead of fertilizers, we should be using this Jeev Amrit. Similarly, there is this another mixture called Bij Amrit. It is a kind of fungicidal mixture. Before sowing seeds in the soil, the first seeds, they are soaked in this Bij Amrit So it acts as a fungicide and it leads to better productivity. Similar mixture, yet another mixture of the same kind is used as pesticide or insecticide. This mixture involves the use of neem leaves, tobacco and green chilies. So it acts as organic pesticide or insecticide. Other techniques involve mulching. What is mulching? Say when we practice agriculture, we make furrows and rills. We grow crops over here. But this portion, this furrow portion, is left exposed. During the day, there is the solar heat. This exposed portion, this exposed soil, is not only prone to soil erosion, but it is also prone to, the water contained in this soil is also prone to excessive evaporation because of the solar heat. So what can be done in this regard? We can cover this portion of soil, we can cover this exposed soil with crop residue, stubble or such like organic things. This will not only, like the two drawbacks that we had just now discussed, it will not only prevent soil erosion, but it will also cover the soil. It will also lead to lesser evaporation of water from the soil. Lesser evaporation means the lesser need to irrigate. It will lead to conservation of water as well. So mulching can be one of the techniques that is used in zero budget natural farming, covering the soil with straw or crop residue to conserve moisture. And additional benefit, what is the additional benefit of it? It prevents the growth of weeds also. If there would be exposed soil, if there would be air and water, it leads to growth of weed. Mulching prevents the growth of excessive weeds as well. Last technique that is that we'll be discussing is Vultures. What is Vultures? It is the increase in aeration of the soil. Aeration and irrigation both are essential for proper growth of plant. We have been giving way too much attention to irrigation, to providing water to the soil so that the water can be absorbed by the plants, by the crops. In this excessive emphasis on irrigation, what is being ignored till now in the techniques that we use these days? Aeration aspect is ignored. Why is air necessary? The roots of the plants, they are in soil. Roots need oxygen for respiration. If the soils would be excessively irrigated, very less air would be available in the root zone for respiration of roots. Of course, that leads to lesser productivity by the plants. Aeration has to be given equal importance as irrigation. So if 50% of the pores they are filled with water, 50% of the pores they should be left open and they should be filled with air. Aeration is taken care of in this concept of Vultures, to increase the aeration of the soil and make oxygen available to the microbes and the roots. How can this be done? By increasing the frequency, by increasing the gaps in irrigation. How can we increase gaps in the irrigation? By using this technique. Now the soil would require lesser water. We can provide irrigation at more intervals. This would not only help in reduced water demand, but it will also help in aeration of the soil. Vultures. So these are some of the techniques that we adopt in zero budget natural farming. So what are the benefits of this zero budget natural farming? Obviously, on the basis of the discussion that we just now had, we can say that it would reduce the farmer's cost because no external inputs are being used. No external fertilizers, no external pesticides, insecticides are being used. The inputs based from the farm, in situ resources are being used for proper agricultural production. So this would reduce farmers' cost. Obviously, it would lead to better fertility of the soil and it would improve the nutrient content of the soil. The decreasing fertility of soil degradation is one of the problems that we are seeing in the agriculturally developed areas. The excessive use of fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, irrigation has led to decrease in quality of the soil degradation, decrease in the fertility of the soil. But if we'll use these techniques, Jeevamrit, Bijamrit, this will add to the nutrients of the soil. This will improve the health of the soil. So revive the fertility and nutrient value of the soil. Next, it is environment friendly method. Obviously, it uses less water, it uses less energy, it uses less electricity. So it's an environmental friendly method. It conserves energy, it conserves water. It will lead to a replenishment of the groundwater table. And lastly, we can say that it helps create a resilience in plants against pests, diseases, weather shocks, such like things. Because now our plants, now our crops with the methods, the so-called green revolution methods, our crops are way too much dependent on the application of particular pesticides, insecticides, weedicides for the proper development. If we'll reduce our dependence on these chemical inputs, obviously plants, the farms, they will become more resilient. By using the organic techniques, if we are running our agricultural farms, then our farms would be more resilient to the attacks by pests, to the attacks by diseases, or any like climate change related weather shocks. Lastly, let's have a word about what India is doing in this context. India is encouraging organic farming or zero budget natural farming through various agricultural schemes like Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. This is the most important scheme in this aspect, in which organic farming is being encouraged. The traditional agricultural practices are being encouraged. Zero budget natural farming is being encouraged. Even this zero budget natural farming is also given encouragement under the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. So these two important schemes that you should remember regarding agriculture. Rest in the union budget of 2019 and 20, last year's union budget, specific provisions were introduced for this zero budget natural farming. So this completes our entire topic, zero budget natural farming. Now we'll be moving to our next topic, that is blue flag program or blue flag certification. Why this has been induced in the PIB? There was this news article in which it was mentioned that certain beaches of India, they have been nominated for this blue flag certification. What is this blue flag certification? It is an ecotourism certification that is given by an international NGO, Foundation for Environmental Education. They had started this certification in context of Europe in 1987. Gradually it was expanded to the global scale. There are some 33 criteria, multiple criteria there, which needs to be satisfied before this certification is granted. Because this is a coastal ecotourism certification for the coastal areas, for the beaches, certain points, what kind of points would be there? Points related to the quality of water that is present in the beaches, point regarding the availability of proper wastage disposal, the waste disposal facilities. The beaches should be disabled friendly. This is a highly neglected aspect. We don't usually include this thing in the infrastructure developmental projects. So the beaches, they should be disabled friendly. The access should be disabled friendly. Then they should have proper safety measures. The first aid should be available. The medical evacuation should be available if any untoward incident happens. And then there should be no access to the pets in the main areas of the beach. These are some of the qualitative criteria that I have mentioned over here. Of course, we don't have to remember different criteria that form all the 33 criteria that form part of this certification. The idea is you should know that what this certification is for. It is for the ecotourism, and it is related to the proper coastal management, the management of the beach areas and the coastal areas. Why it has been in use? Because 8 beaches of India have been nominated, have been recommended for this certification on the International Coastal Cleanup Day. On the 3rd Saturday of every September, this International Coastal Cleanup Day is observed, and on this day, the certain beaches, 8 beaches of India were nominated. Even though we it would be difficult for us to remember all the 8 names that have been nominated, but let's go through those names in a short while. Shivrajpur in Gujarat, Ghogla in Daman and Diu, Kasarkod and Pudubidri in Karnataka, Kappad in Kerala, Yushikonda in Andhra Pradesh, Chandrabhaga in Odisha, and Radhanagar beach in Andaman and Nicobar. This Radhanagar beach in Andaman and Nicobar has also been awarded the best beach in Asia status a little bit long while. Very beautiful beach. It's like you are in Mauritius or somewhere. So these 8 beaches, they have been recommended for this certification under Blue Flag program. So this was the news item. Some prelims related questions may be asked from this aspect. Not important, not as such important from your mains point of view. Then, like I had mentioned earlier, there has been death of 2 sloth bears. This is a news item from the Hindu. There has been death of 2 sloth bears in the Nandankanan Zoological Park. So let us study something about these like sloth bear as well as about the zoological park. Indian sloth bear, it is native to Indian subcontinent. India, certain bear varieties are found in India. The Asian black bear, the Asian brown bear, Himalayan bear, and the Indian sloth bear. These are some of the bear varieties that are found in India. And this sloth bear, it is native to Indian subcontinent. An interesting thing about this sloth bear is that it feeds on fruits, ants and termites. Usually the image that comes to our mind when we think about bear is a very large animal that attacks humans or that attacks various small animals. But sloth bear, it feeds on fruits, ants and termites, insectivorous and herbivorous animal. Its status in the IUCN Red List is vulnerable. Various threatened categories are mentioned in the IUCN Red List: vulnerable category, endangered category, critically endangered category, and things like that. Extinct categories, extinct in wild categories. So the status, the sloth bear enjoys vulnerable status in the IUCN Red List. And one of the threats that it faces in India is the habitat loss. We are increasingly encroaching upon the habitats. We are increasingly encroaching upon the forests where the sloth bear lives, and that is leading to decline in population. What India is doing in this regard? The sloth bear has been included in the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is the foremost legislation of India regarding the protection of various species of wild animals in India. All the animals, all the flagship animals that we are preserving, that we are trying to conserve, be it tiger, elephant, gharial or things like that, all of them, they have been included in the Wildlife Protection Act. And under this Wildlife Protection Act, there are different schedules, Schedule 1, Schedule 2 and things like that. Different animals are mentioned in these schedules. The animals that are mentioned in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, they are accorded maximum protection. That there will be no trade, there will be no trade in the parts of these animals, there would be no poaching for whatsoever reasons. So maximum protection is accorded to the animals included in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. And sloth bear is part of Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Similarly, there is this international treaty, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES. Just like we have schedules attached to the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, we have annexures annexed to this treaties, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. There are multiple annexures, Annexure A, Annexure B, and so on. The animals that are mentioned in Annexure A, they are accorded maximum protection under CITES. Their trade is completely banned, the trade of their parts is completely banned, and heavy penalties are being imposed. Sloth bear is included in Annexure A of the CITES Convention. These are some of the factual information. This is some of the factual information that you must remember regarding the sloth bear. Now let's have a word about the Nandankanan Zoological Park. Most of the conservation efforts of India They are in situ conservation efforts, that we try to conserve the biodiversity in its natural habitat. So for that purpose, we have national parks, we have wildlife sanctuaries, we have biosphere reserves. But very little attention, we are very little proportion of the conservation efforts. They are also ex situ, out of sight. We have established botanical gardens, we have established zoological gardens where conservation efforts are being done. Zoos and botanical gardens. This Nandankanan Zoological Park in Bhubaneswar, Odisha is one of the most important zoos of India as far as ex situ conservation of biodiversity is concerned. This is the only zoo, this is the only zoological park in India that is the institutional member of World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Only institutional member from India. Governments may be member, but as an institution, as a zoo, only zoo in India that is member of this world body. As far as its conservation efforts are concerned, it is known for conservation of tiger, particularly the breeding of the white tigers. White tigers is not a separate variety of tigers. It is the result, the white color, the white fur of the tigers, the white color of the skin of the tigers is the result of a genetic defect. Sometimes a normal yellow Bengal tiger mates with another Bengal tiger and it results in production and the progeny of white tiger because of some genetic disorder. So this zoological park, it is a host zoo for white tigers. It is also a zoo where captive breeding of gharials is being done. The so-called Indian crocodile. The gharials population was decreasing in 1970s, 1980s. So it was decided that we would have the captive breeding of the gharials. We'll capture these gharials, we'll make them breed in the zoological parks, and then we'll release these gharials into the wild, into the rivers of India. So this park was the site, this zoo was the site of the captive breeding of gharials. Similarly, the captive breeding of vultures. It is one of the 3 zoos in India for the captive breeding of the long-billed vultures. We'll be covering today the issue of the vulture deaths also. So what we are doing in the context of the vulture deaths is we are trying to increase their population by captive breeding. And this zoological park, Nandankanan Zoo in Bhubaneswar, it is one of the 3 zoos in India selected for the captive breeding of the long-billed vultures. So these were some of the facts that you must remember about the sloth pair and the Nandankanan Zoological Park. If any factual information based question appears in the prelims. Next news that we'll be covering is the World Bamboo Day. It is observed on 18th of September every year, and this year the theme for the celebration was Bamboo Now. Indian government, in this context, like this was basic factual information, we can have a general discussion regarding bamboo. In 2017, Indian government decided to remove bamboo from the category of trees. Now, bamboo is not considered a tree as far as the official purposes are concerned. Now it is considered a grass. Biologically also, bamboo is a grass. Bamboo is not a tree, bamboo is a grass. Biologically also. Lekin it was considered a tree under the earlier version of the Indian Forest Act. It was amended and now it is considered a grass. It is not considered a tree. Why was this thing done? The bamboo cultivation in India is basically concentrated in northeast of India. Northeastern tribes, they are dependent on the extraction of bamboo, the use of bamboo, and in the bamboo cottage industry. To aid this bamboo cottage industry and to aid the economic activities of the northeastern region, bamboo was removed from the Indian Forest Act so that people can extract bamboo and this bamboo can be used as an input in the bamboo based industry, furniture industry. So this is one of the updates that you must remember. Already we also have a National Bamboo Mission to aid the increase in production of bamboo, to increase the area under cultivation in under bamboo. So National Bamboo Mission not only it supports the increasing cultivation of bamboo, but it also supports the bamboo-based furniture industry. And as far as bamboo-based furniture industry is concerned, there is this another term that you should keep in mind, rattan. You must have observed two kind of cane furniture. The one that uses straight bamboo sticks, and the other kind of uses flexible and curved bamboo sticks, yeah, bamboo like wood in a curved manner. That is the furniture that uses curved wooden pieces, that is rattan, and the normal cane furniture is based on bamboo cultivation. What is the major difference between these two kind of varieties? The rattan is very similar to bamboo, but the bamboo consists of hollow stem, but the rattan consists of solid stem. Bamboo is relatively stiff, while rattan is relatively flexible. It can be curved, it can be different shapes can be given to rattan. So bamboo and rattan furniture industry is being encouraged by government under National Bamboo Mission. So this was some basic information regarding the World Bamboo Day. Last topic that we'll be covering in today's class is related to vulture deaths. Like I said, there is this video on the Down to Earth website regarding the vulture deaths in India and what efforts government is doing in this regard and what is the cause of the vulture deaths. So we'll have a brief discussion regarding that. The vulture population is rapidly decreasing in India. Vulture has been culturally very important, and it plays a very important role environmentally also, because vulture is a scavenger. It feeds on the dead bodies of animals. If a wild animal dies, if domestic animals die, they are left outside of the village premises, they are left outside of the city premises, and vultures feed on the dead bodies of these animals, and in this way they help in environmental cleanup. But lately so many vultures are dying in India. What is the main cause of their death? Their death is ascribed to the use of this drug, diclofenac. Now this is a painkiller drug. We also use this drug. Humans are also administered this drug in combination with paracetamol. The cattle were being administered this drug, the veterinary version of this drug, as a painkiller, so that more work can be extracted from the cattle. When vultures would feed on the cattle that has been given diclofenac, diclofenac moves from the body of the cattle into the body of the vulture. Now in this context, to understand this thing, there are these two terms, bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Bioaccumulation and biomagnification. When a pollutant is introduced into the food chain, it is known as bioaccumulation. Introduction of pollutant to the food chain. And what is biomagnification? Whenever we move higher up in a food chain, like grass is eaten by grasshopper, grasshopper is eaten by frog, frog is eaten by snake. As we move up in a food chain, the concentration of pollutant increases, it gets magnified. This is known as biomagnification. Cattle, let's say start with grass, grass is eaten by cattle, cattle is eaten by vultures, scavenger vultures. If diclofenac pollutant enters the body of the cattle and the cattle is eaten by vultures, the concentration of diclofenac in vultures would be more as compared to concentration in the cattle. Why? Because of this phenomena of biomagnification. Cattle can tolerate diclofenac, but vultures cannot. This leads to the kidney failure of the vultures, eventually leading to a very painful death. This is the main cause of vulture deaths in India. So we have lately been trying to address this issue because vultures play a very important role by being scavenger, by feeding on the dead animals. So what was our first response? We tried to ban the sale of the veterinary version of this drug diclofenac. But diclofenac is diclofenac. You use diclofenac, I use diclofenac, and the cattle was being administered the veterinary version of the diclofenac, but diclofenac is diclofenac. What farmers started doing? They started administering the human version of diclofenac to the cattle. So the problem is still live. We have not completely dealt with the issue. We are trying with the captive breeding of the vultures as well. Okay, that will capture certain vultures, will breed them in the captivity, and once they are healthy, they'll be released in the wild. We are trying with the concept of vulture restaurants as well. There will be certain sites would be identified where diclofenac free cattle, the cattle that had been certified that no diclofenac was administered to these cows during their lifetime. When they are dead, they are left over there so that vulture can feed on those cattle, the healthy cattle, the diclofenac free cattle, dead cattle. So we are trying with these measures to improve the population of the vultures. So that was all as far as this week's current affairs were concerned. Not very news were there regarding environment in this week. So the class was short. That's all as far as this class was concerned. I hope you would have enjoyed the class. Thank you.